Good evening. It's a pleasure to be with you today. And thank you all very much for joining us this evening. Wherever you are, maybe it's afternoon where you are. My name is Tunde Reis. I'm the founder and CEO of First World Ventures, which is a company focused on providing executive training to elicit the potential of individuals and their organizations. Today, we are going to be listening to the fourth in the series of webinars that we've had. Before now, my colleagues have given their sessions. So we have 3 sessions before now. Today is the final concluding session. And I note that you're already sending in where you're coming from. So today, right now, I can see, let me just have a look. People from different parts of the world. Thank you very much. Yes, it's a pleasure to be with you all here. Thank you very much, Ogun State in Nigeria. Amazing from New Jersey, from Kent, Essex, and Lagos. Thank you very much. You're welcome. We'll try and make up for time. Oh, Harare, Zimbabwe. That's nice. And someone, Shola, from Canada. Thank you. DC. Thank you very much for being here. Nairobi, Kenya. Thank you very much. Manchester. Thank you. Thank you for joining us in this final webinar. We've all been going through challenges, and it's not been easy. It's a situation that no one living now has seen before. It's something that is so different. It was totally unexpected. And being in lockdown has its own challenges. Life itself under normal circumstances is challenging. But to be in lockdown for as long as we have been can be quite challenging. And I appreciate that. I thank you for your courage. All I just would like to say is that you have more in you to overcome whatever life throws at you. And that really is the purpose of the talk today. We will be talking about how to make thriving choices in the midst of difficult situations. I'd also like to invite you to take note of the Q&A icon. If you tap your screen, if you're using an iPad, or if you're using a laptop, just move your cursor to the top of the screen. You'll see the Q&A icon. That is the icon that you'll please use for the Q&A session. But for chats regarding any support of any kind, or to give us feedback, please use the chat icon. All questions will be answered right at the end of the presentation, and it shouldn't take very long. We would be taking about 20 minutes to talk through this, and I'll take questions after that. The first session, like I mentioned, was given by my dear wife, who is also the managing director of First World Ventures, Mrs. Reis, and she spoke about creating balance. The second one was on compassionate leadership. That was by my teacher, Laurie Cameron, who joined us from DC to present it. And she gave a talk on compassionate leadership. Laurie is a well-known author of the book Mindful Day, which is a best-selling book in the Washington Post. And she's also a senior teacher of research inside yourself curriculum. She's a consultant, speaker on mindful leadership and well-being, and she's the founder of Purpose Group. The third session was given on building resilience by Yves Givel. Yves is a vice president of human resources at the Hijack Corporation, and is also an executive coach and public speaker. So we are delighted and grateful that these teachers were able to join us and enrich the program. Today, I wanted to share with you why I'm doing this, because for those who know me and who have known me for a while, will say that what I've been known for has been affordable housing and probably a bit of talking about leadership in business. But this is very important to me because having had the privilege of starting my 7th decade of life this week, I pondered on what I found most important on the journey. And it keeps coming back that I need to share some of those practices that I found very beneficial in my career and in my personal life. And this program, Search Inside Yourself, really, I think, kind of sums it up very nicely, which is about mindfulness-based emotional intelligence. The mindfulness-based emotional intelligence program, which is called Search Inside Yourself, was developed originally at Google before it was carved out and set up with the Search Inside Yourself Leadership Institute. And to this day, Google still uses the program. It's one of its most popular leadership development programs. Now, we have the opportunity of having listened to those 3 previous speakers, and most of their materials came from the Search Inside Yourself curriculum. My wife, Mrs. Yinka Reis, started by talking about mindfulness and self-awareness, essentially showing us how to go from autopilot to becoming more aware and seeing what is actually happening so that we can respond appropriately. In the program itself, as defined by Daniel Goleman, emotional intelligence builds on 5 competencies, and then supported with mindfulness as the base for self-awareness. The next stage is self-management. And after that, you go on to motivation, which is the alignment of your work with your values. And then you move on to empathy. And the final stage is social skills or leadership. Good social skills obviously engenders good leadership. So in a nutshell, that is the entire package of the Search Inside Yourself curriculum, which is usually offered in different formats, in 4-day format, in 3 2-day formats, or virtual. But here we are only able, because of time constraints, able to give you snippets of what the program itself contains. So essentially, we are trying to today look at what kind of challenges we have in the world. Under normal circumstances, like I mentioned earlier, the world is challenging. Life is naturally challenging. You just need to take a look at the natural world. If you watch any of the National Geographic channels or wildlife series, you will see that every creature in life, including we humans, are continuously challenged by life. Now, I choose not to see it as, adverse conditions, because adverse kind of connotes that you are dealing with an enemy, an adversary. It's not quite like that. The reality of it is that life evolves as it were through these challenges. Nothing evolves in life, nothing grows in life, so to speak, without being challenged. I mean, if you want to grow a strong body and strong muscles, you need to go to the gym. At the time you are doing your training in the gym, it feels like, something is going to break. But if you persevere, you will come out with a stronger body. Life is a bit like that. And I will encourage us to see the current situation as just yet another challenge of life. My friend, who incidentally is on this webinar tonight, described it very well at a talk at the 60th birthday, when he said that there are only 3 kinds of people in life. The first category are those who survive the going through a challenge, and the third category are those about to go into a challenge without knowing it. So it's either we are getting into one or we are about to leave one. So life challenges you all the time. But how do we respond? And really, that is what makes the difference. It's the kind of thriving choices that we make whenever we come across the challenges of life. That is what makes the difference between those who thrive and those who fall by the wayside. And the challenges can come in different forms. It could be loss, job losses, financial freedom, and loss of freedom. For many of us, this kind of lockdown is a kind of loss of freedom, which is totally uncommon and never experienced before. Loss of relationships, loss of a loved one, grief can be very difficult. It could be physical pain, or it could be emotional triggers or habitual thought patterns. So these are mind-made. These are the category you call mind-made challenges. Now, typically, we respond to these challenges in the first session, Mrs. Reis described as autopilot. And what are these autopilot traits? For those who attended, attention is in the past or in the future, is distracted, is reactive and judgmental. Why me? Why must this happen to me? Why not something else? Or why are they not doing what they're supposed to do? So we keep asking questions instead of finding solutions. And we act based on habit patterns and assumptions, which may not necessarily be correct, which may not have anything to do with the reality of the current situation. So mindfulness essentially is being present to see what is actually happening. Because any solution you proffer without actually seeing the problem for what it is like going on a wild goose chase. So when we practice mindfulness, which is the science of being present, we focus attention on what is as it is. What actually happens is that mindfulness helps to disconstruct the challenge. We see it for what it is. And we do that by being aware of what's going on in our mind, in our body, and in our surroundings, with an attitude of curiosity and kindness in a non-judgmental way. And that way, when we see what is happening, we are able to embrace it. We allow it to be. And then I'll just at this stage like to invite us maybe to do a recap of the micro practice that we had in that first session, just to get things going again, and also to remind us that this is a very simple practice, but we can all tell the effects. What I'd like us to do is to take 3 simple breaths together. And on the first breath, just allow your attention to gently rest on your breath and see if you can monitor one full cycle of breath from the inhale to the exhale. On the second breath, relax the body. Just allow the body to relax, allow any tensions to fall away, and drop whatever you're holding. And then on the third breath, ask the question, what is most important right now? So please, you may take the 3 breaths at your own time. Thank you very much. How was that? Let me just see if we've got any chats coming up. How was that? How did that go? Could you please, let's have your comments, your observations. Did you notice any change in your state as we practice that exercise? I'm just checking the chat box here. Yes, I can see someone saying he felt more relaxed and that was useful. Thank you. A great sense, always calming. Yeah, a great relief. Yes. So the question is, if we find this so useful, from anxiety, I feel more relaxed. I think we should then do it more often. We should do it more often so that we can say it. Support, maybe you can take a look at it. Someone has just said that it helped with focus. Thank you for that. I really needed that. Thank you. So that essentially is what it is. Please, for those of you who are experiencing technical challenges like the volume of the audio, please send a chat to our support team. They will read your chat and they will try to sort it out by reaching you directly. But let's just go on into the main subject of today, choices. How do we make choices? How do we move from compulsion to choice? And what kind of choices should we make? So when we are on autopilot, we are basically just reacting. So it's compulsive behavior. It's like we are not in control, you know. So what we now need to do is basically to investigate further. How do we ensure that we move from compulsion to choice, to actually be able to choose the response? And I'll remind us again of a quotation that was shared in the first session, which was from Viktor Frankl, one of the survivors of the Holocaust. It was quoted in Franklin Covey's book, 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. He said that between stimulus and response, there is a space. In that space is our power to choose our response. And in our response lies our growth and our freedom. That is, between the point of stimulus and response, there is a space. In that space lies our power to choose our response. In our response lies our growth and our freedom. Viktor Frankl. That's what is said. So all of what we are doing today is about learning how to choose in that space, making thriving choices, choices that will support us in thriving, as opposed to choices that will hold us back. And I would also like to say that this helps us with self-management. Self-management itself is a process of managing our internal states, impulses, and resources. It's not about avoiding anything or our emotions or our feelings, and it's not about denying or suppressing them. It's a bit like riding on a kayak, you know, a little canoe on the boat. Yes, it's moving very fast in the rapids, but the intention is not to crash the kayak. The intention is to avoid the rocks sticking out of the water and move through the rapids as quickly as you have. That precisely is what mindfulness helps you to do. And today we are going to learn how to navigate those turbulent waters of life. So as life throws its challenges at us, so long as we are alive, we should be able to say, well, bring it on. That's why I'm still here. So we learn to embrace the challenges of life so that we can thrive in them rather than be overwhelmed by them. And they come in two kinds. We are going to look at 2 types of triggers. Triggers are those things that elicit a very strong emotional reaction from us, you know, and it could come from anything. Typically, there are triggers that happen in the moment. They happen very quickly. Like you are driving on the road, somebody cuts in front of you, a driver cuts in front of you. Before you even have a chance to think about it, you are, you know, reacting in some way. If you are inclined to that, either saying something to the driver or saying something to yourself or blaring your horn or whatever. But there are other kinds of triggers. You know, maybe your boss says something and you feel slighted by what your boss has said, you know, and it invokes very strong emotions in you. These are, so to speak, instant triggers, if you want to call them that way. But there are also triggers that persist for a while, they linger. These are triggers that are not momentary. They are things sometimes related with experiencing failure or loss, with change in circumstances or habitual patterns of mind. I am not worthy, I can't do this, or I'm a failure, or I'm a success, whatever. So these are habitual triggers. We'll try and see how to work with each of those 2 triggers. But before we do that, I will invite us to look at a concept put forward by Daniel Goleman, who is referred to as one of the fathers of emotional intelligence in his popular book, Emotional Intelligence. He spoke about amygdala hijack concept. The amygdala is that part of the brain in the limbic system that can be said to be the sensor within the brain. It picks up threats in our environment. That threat could be physical or emotional. And what it does is to immediately send signals upwards to the executive network around the prefrontal cortex. which is the rational decision-making part of the brain. But when we are triggered, the rational part of our brain does not have the time to offer a response and downregulate whatever the amygdala is feeling. So the amygdala just hijacks us and will probably give a response or do something that we regret later. So what we then need to do is to focus on how do we increase the communication bandwidth between the amygdala that picks up these signals and the rational decision-making prefrontal. So essentially that's what we're doing. And Dr. Rodin said that this depends on who we are, our self-referencing framework, and also our ability to use language to name what we are experiencing. If you can see what you're experiencing and name it, it kind of decreases its impact or the potential will be hijacked. And one of the ways of working with that is a practice called SBNRR. That's the acronym. If you would want to find it easy to remember, you can just try to say somebody needs rest and recovery. But the first S, the first letter there stands for stop, which is that whenever we feel triggered, whether in traffic or in a conversation or in a meeting, we should just stop, calm things down, just stop, don't do anything for a moment. And then the second acronym there is the letter B, breathe. Just take a deep breath before we decide on what to do. Taking a deep breath allows you to focus attention on the body and leave the activity of the mind for a brief moment. And then you notice, that's the N, notice what's going on in the body. Where do I feel the discomfort? Is it anger in my belly? Is it pain in my chest, around my heart? Is it, wherever I feel it? Because emotions do show up in our body, different parts of our body, depending on how we feel it. There are studies to that. In the full SIY program, you get to see how emotions show up in the body. There is a whole section, a whole module devoted to that. And we would also have practices, long practices on how to notice these emotions in our bodies and how to identify them. So the R is to reflect. What has just happened? Why am I feeling this way? What's going on for the other person? Am I acting out of my habitual pattern? Or is this something that actually deserves that kind of response? Then on reflection, we can conclude by saying what would be the most appropriate response to this incident? How may I react in a manner that is consistent with my values, that is consistent with the task at hand, that is consistent with the objective that I'm trying to achieve, not to act in a way that I'll later regret. And then we can choose our response. So SBNRR. Please remember that next time you come across a triggering moment. Then we also have the opportunity to look at other ways of managing those emotions that linger for a while. And this is based on the work of some researchers where they said that actually the first thing that we need to do when we experience those triggers, the type that linger for a while, is to redirect attention. And when we redirect attention, we can redirect attention to our breath or to our body and see what is actually going on. And then we can reframe the situation. Okay, I've just lost my job. Maybe it's an opportunity to start out an enterprise. Maybe it's an opportunity to go on consulting and not to think, oh, I'm no good. That is why I've been let go. So we can then start to reframe what has happened because we have actually seen it for what it is. And then we move on to the third part of it, of emotional management. So we've done attention to see what is actually happening. We have reframed it, trying to elicit the opportunities in that situation. And now we are going to our wishing is different. So, and we do that by practicing a form of self-compassion. Self-compassion might sound, counterintuitive because we may have compassion for others, but how many of us actually think about self-compassion? But really, that is what we need to be able to have acceptance. Do that in 3 steps again, and seeing the situation for what it is. And then seeing our common humanity, seeing that I'm not the only one with challenges in life. Just because I have a challenge does not mean that something is wrong with me, no matter what the challenge is. So it is seeing that common humanity, that challenges are a common human everyday thing. As I said earlier, 3 categories of human beings in life. No one is a success at everything. And then practice some self-kindness. Look at yourself the way, for instance, grandmothers look at their children. That this is, just okay. It's part of life. And it will pass. That's the beauty of it. It is transient. It will pass. Then we then look at it and say, what can I do to make this? There is a simple micro practice that has been shared earlier in the Building Resilience program by my colleague, Yves Gibel. That practice is very simple. It can be practiced within 30 seconds. It says, breathing in, I do my best. Breathing out, I let go of the rest. So I want us to just experience that and try that right now. And say to ourselves, take a breath, and on the inward breath, say to yourself, breathing in, I do my best. Breathing out, I let go of the rest. It would be nice to read your chart and how that felt, so that you don't feel as if, something is wrong with me. I've messed it up again, and all kinds of stories that the mind starts to fabricate. So essentially what we have been invited to do is to avoid rubbing insult or salt on injury. It's bad enough that we've made a mistake. We can make it worse by feeling bad about ourselves. So we should always avoid that. We should avoid creating misery out of life's challenges. Someone said, I love that practice. I feel like a weight has been lifted off me. It's easy to know that you can leave the rest after you have done your best. But really, what else can you do? If you've done your best, I'm here to see anyone who can act beyond their best. Your best is simply your best. I'm free of burden and lighter. Someone said that. So that is exactly what it is. If you can bring this simple practice into our everyday lives, I think we can start to make choices that thrive. I'd like to leave you with my own advice from, that I've gathered over the years, is simply to say that when life challenges come, remember 3 things, to do 3 things. First, apart from the practices that we have shared, look at it like a garden. Just observe, see what is there. What is this? With an attitude of curiosity and kindness. Then secondly, to use the analogy, the metaphor of the garden, pull out the weeds. Take out the negatives. Negatives don't go anywhere. And then thirdly, plant flowers. Do good things. Think of what opportunity this situation presents. What good can come out of this situation, even as seemingly bad as it is right now. And don't forget, finally, most importantly, that these too shall pass. I thank you for your attention. I'm happy to ask questions. I noticed that some questions are already in the Q&A box, and I'll check them. Someone did say that passing through this season, what can someone be grateful for? less money, and none is coming in. Many things, many things. Tonight, if you want to try, get a pen and paper and start to journal. First, to start with, you are alive and well. You are alive and well. Otherwise, you may not be at this webinar. You've probably received some education. You have skills. You are probably in the top 20 percentile of the world's population. You have the opportunity, if no money is coming in right now, as soon as the opportunity for money to start coming in is available, you've got the skills to make money. So right now, it might look bleak, but I'm grateful that I'm alive and well. I'm grateful that I have the skills to take on a new role whenever the opportunity arises. So that's something to be grateful for. Can you give a practical real life experience on how you have used mindfulness technique to manage a challenge? Yes, I try to do that all the time. What challenges am I going through right now in my own life? I get triggered. You cannot, well, I don't know about some people. Being in business and working with other people can be challenging. I've got a loving wife, but no matter how close you are in a relationship, you know, my wife acts both as my supportive mirror and my reflective mirror. So all the weeds that people don't see outside, they are like, they are big to her because she sees it all the time. And I'm grateful for that. So mindfulness helps me to put that in context and reframe it and say, actually, this is my wife, the number one person who loves me and who wants the best for me in the world. And if she's guiding me, it's for my own good. It might be difficult to receive, but what other people will not tell me, my wife will tell me, because we've come a long way. So that is using mindfulness to pay attention to what is actually happening, what she's saying, and to reframe that and then accept it as what it is, that, okay, yes, this is where I am. There's a gap between who I am and who I would like to be. So that is work in progress. No human being is perfect, you know, except realizing that common humanity, that I'm not the only one with a challenge. I'm not the only one that is perfect. Someone says, what's the last R on SBNRR? Is to respond. And responding is from the root response flexibility. It's about being, as I said, they felt relief. When is the probable time for this crisis to end? Of all the skills that I have, well, there have been a lot of predictions out there, but I don't have a way to look at the crystal ball, and I have no idea, to be honest, of when this will end. Admiral Stockdale, who was captured as a prisoner of war by the Vietnamese, and he said while they were in the prisoner of war camp, there were many fellow prisoners who kept hoping that, oh, we'll be out by summer, we'll be out by this, we'll be that this is that this will soon go away. So my advice for the long haul, let's be ready that this might take as long as it is, and it really doesn't matter. We are ready for it. That's why we are here. Our attitude to a challenge, you know, forget the fact that maybe I spent a good part of my life in the barracks, is like lacing up your boots. I'm ready for the day. Once you're on parade, you're ready for battle. Once you're alive, be prepared for challenges. So don't worry about it. They will quick coming. So your attitude should be, bring it on. I've got the resources within me to deal with whatever life throws at me. If I don't deal with it, I learn from it. But it's never a complete loss. How do you manage emotions, especially if you're someone that is quick to anger? Yes, we did say that. SBNRR will help. Remember to at least stop. If the S is the only thing that you practice, remember to stop. When you stop, we can see that this is what is actually happening. And then it gives you the opportunity to breathe. And then once you've been able to breathe, you can then go to the end. Notice what exactly is going on. So SBNR is very good for someone who is quick to anger. Can you please repeat the 3 types of people? The audio was cutting at the time. Yes, the 3 types of the three categories of human beings, not three types of people. We all fall into three categories in terms of challenges of life. The first category are those who are currently going through a challenge and they are wondering, would we survive this or not? The second category are those who are thankful that they have just survived the challenge. And the third category are those who are about to enter a challenge, but they don't know it. It's already knocking. It might be happening that night, but they are happy, everything is going well, but sooner or later, life challenges you. It's just the nature of life. I know that there are out there's a whole industry based on a life free of problems or challenges, but I'm yet to see that happening. It's never happened in any generation, but maybe we'll get there someday. But for now, we have to live with our challenges. I love this session. I feel safe. Wonderful presentation. What suggestion do you have for solving numerous challenges in Nigeria? One solution at a time. If we all practice and actually see what is going on, then hopefully we stand a good chance. But right now, if we don't even know what is going on, and we are offering all kinds of solutions, we are reacting to each other, we are not responding, we are not even communicating, then there is no chance. So this is one of the reasons why I decided to take on this program, to share with the whole of Africa, actually, what I think has been beneficial in other developed parts of the world. So the first step really is to be in a position to communicate with each other effectively and actually see what is going on. Where can I take a mindfulness course in Nigeria or online? Well, I said, we have this program, this Search Inside Yourself that is coming up in October. We are doing that in partnership with the Lagos Business School. It will take place in Lagos, the current situation permitting. So that program is there. If you check our website, you will be able to see it. And I think my colleagues will also put in the chat box the dates for the one in London, which is coming up in September. Another question is, at what point does mindfulness practice and intentional optimism end, especially if the challenge lasts for extended period with no end in sight? Intentional optimism. Mindfulness is not really about wishing the problem to go away. We said it's in three-player, but we are paying attention to the mind, to the body, and to the environment with an attitude of curiosity and kindness, not with optimism. We are just curious to see what is this? What am I meant to learn from this? How is this going to grow me? And when it appears as if there is no end in sight, it's a bit like life is a marathon, really. It's unlikely that challenges will cease in life. Even those who never need to do anything for a living, the type they call trust fund children, they are born into a trust fund and they never need to do anything. They are still challenged. The fact that they don't even have to do anything is a challenge. So we shouldn't worry about when a challenge will last. We should be concerned about developing the resources to embrace our challenges and either overcome them, thrive in them, make choices that would make sure that we thrive, or learn from them. How do you bridge the gap between who you are now and who you would like to be? Practice, practice, practice. The road to becoming a top performer in anything is practice and self-compassion as well. Don't worry if you don't get it right the first time. Try and try and try again. So it's a bit like the mindfulness practice that Mrs. Reis shared the first day. Placing your attention on the breath, it might appear to be the most simple thing to do. But then the attention keeps going away because the mind wants to do its own thing. And every time the instruction is simply begin again. So if you are not who you want to be, don't worry about it. Be compassionate with yourself. Just begin again. Try and try again. And if it's something that's affecting other people, be quick to apologize. I'm sorry, this is not what I want to be, but it's work in progress. And find support, find practices that can encourage what you need to do. How do you recognize the signals driven by mindfulness versus the monkey brain impulsiveness? Well, it's very easy, just by being present. You cannot be focusing your attention on your breath or be aware of your body and be in your head about at the same time. Once your attention goes to any part of your body, you are out of your head. So a very simple practice during the day, just to be sure we are not in our head, is to look around before we decide what to do. Just by looking around, you are connecting with your five senses. You are hearing, you are seeing, you are touching, you are feeling something. And once you connect with your senses, you are out of your monkey mind. I feel I should start something new career-wise. A lot came to mind of Israel, but I have my fears. Maybe I'm acting based on emotion. I need a new face. I loved it when you said challenges are normal for growth. What do you advise, sir? Well, very simple. Confront your fears. Slay your demons. The talk I'm giving today has been in the making. Well, I don't want to scare you, but I've been asked to teach this more than 25 years ago. But I resisted doing it. I've been practicing for that long, and my teachers did encourage me to start doing this, but I resisted it. So I had my own fears. I have nothing to teach. I still have to learn. I'm still growing. I won't have the time. So we all have our fears. We have all kinds of concerns, but you wouldn't know unless you start. So just get started and you'll keep going. Can I get the title of this session? The session is Thriving Choices. How to make choices that help us to grow. Is mindfulness like spiritual growth? I don't know what you mean by spiritual growth, but mindfulness is simply paying attention. It's the science of being present. We get this question a lot. It's just being present. You know, I liken it to going to a movie or paying, in fact, the movie is even better, paying a lot of money to get a good seat at the theater. Maybe you've taken one of those nice gallery boxes, and then you get there and you can't watch the performance. Maybe your mind is still in the office or you're on your phone. So what's the point? So mindfulness is helping us to live fully here now. Many of us pray to live to a ripe old age, but even the time that we have now, we are absent, we are in our head, ruminating about the past and worrying about the future. When the future comes, it will be the present moment. That's why mindfulness is so important, learning to be in the present moment so that you can enjoy life. Yes, I know that these practices have been used by different various spiritual practices, but it is to the same end, just to get human beings to live a more abundant life in the present moment, because that's where life happens. In life, you have more than one challenge hitting you at any given time. How do you multi-mindful at the same time? Well, I like that. Very good question. You don't multi-mindful. You know, like the practice that we had at that time, you are only in one place at one time. So when I'm in the office, I have the challenges of the office. I have to deal with that. I have to make sure that the company thrives and survives and do all that. When I'm heading home, or as soon as I get home, if any one of my children call me, that role has changed. So if I'm present, if I'm not present, if I'm not mindful, I can carry the frustrations of office to my conversation with my loved ones. So I don't need to be multi-mindful. I just need the 3 breath practice. First breath, connect, attention to the breath. Second breath, relax the body. Third breath, ask what is most important now. not for that multi-problem, that problem, that problem. Right now, where I am, which problem can I deal with? Or which challenge can I deal with? When you are mindful, your challenges stop becoming problems. There's a difference between the two. You don't make a problem out of your challenges. You see them for what they are, life's challenges. But you don't make a problem out of them. You don't complain about them. You don't moan about them. To make my fears clearer, thank you. That's another question. My fears clearer, I've been through a lot, and it's like I've been playing safe for many years. I hardly embrace any risk. Yes, some of us are risk averse, but all I can say is you know yourself. As you practice, you will know yourself better. Self-awareness will come in, and you will be able to determine your risk appetite and decide what to do. We might need to wrap up shortly. I'll just take 2 more questions. What advice do you have for those who do not understand or appreciate what others are going through, but are always antagonistic? For instance, someone who is born with a silver spoon might not be able to show empathy to someone who does not know where the next meal is coming from. Being born with a silver spoon has its own challenges. And you don't need to worry about the reaction of other people. You are running your own race. So if they understand what is going on for you and empathize with you, good. But if they don't, none of us can act beyond the limit of our knowledge. Anyone who sees you in a difficult situation and does not empathize with you simply doesn't know how to empathize. So you should show empathy to the person and not expect it, because it's actually a deficiency, a serious human deficiency to not be able to empathize. And then finally, in life, you have that I've answered that. How do you apply SBNRR when you have to deal with a situation that needs a spontaneous reaction? Time lag. Well, here, I would like to probably look at what is probably my experience in the military. Thankfully, I spent a lot of time in the military, but it was mostly a peacetime army. But I took our training seriously because although I joined the army, I wanted to return home. I wanted to finish my career and get back home and not return in a body bag. And the only way to do that was to take the training seriously. One of the things that we are taught in fieldcraft, as it's called, is that when you come under enemy fire, the first thing you need to do, there's nothing that can be more spontaneous than that. You are meeting the enemy eyeball to eyeball and you hear the bullet crack. So we are trained. The first thing you do is to take cover. So we have an unseen enemy now. He's raging. Cover. So quickly take cover. You don't even know where the enemy is. Just stay safe. Second thing is look around. And the third thing is to make a call, decide what to do. So when you look around, at that time when we were being trained as young officers, I did not realize that looking around helps you to connect with your senses, get out of the fear that is in your head or in your mind. And by looking around, you call on extra capacity that can help you to see what can be useful around you or the nature of the threat that you face. So really, I don't think any situation can be more spontaneous than that. We will try our best maybe to email answers to the rest of the questions, but I need to tell you a bit about the next webinar. The next webinar is going to be taken by Rich Fernandez, the CEO of the Search Inside Yourself Leadership Institute and former Director of Executive Education and People Development at Google. It will take place on Tuesday, the 19th of May, 2020. And that will be at 3 p.m. British summer time, which is also the same as the West African time. And it's 7 a.m. Pacific time. And the topic is emotional intelligence skills for the new decade. So please, we look forward to joining us there. It will be a great session. I have a lot of respect and admiration for Rich. He embodies the work. He's been doing this work for a while, and he's so experienced. I'm looking forward to it myself. I'd like to end by expressing our appreciation to our co-teachers, Laurie Cameron, Yves Gizel, and Mrs. Zinka Reis, and also to the Vedant Zeal team for providing excellent technical support throughout. And also to the First World team in London and Lagos, I thank you very much for what you've done.